Good morning, everybody. JT and Brandon back with you guys on a Wednesday morning. Studio 10-4 live, the morning drive. Got the West Coast covered over here on my end and the other one on your end. So we're traveling across time zones and trying to get stuff out there to everybody. I hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend and again celebrated for the right reasons. And listen, I hate to sound like the guy driving that home, but I feel like I have a passion for it because of a lot of reasons. I mean, I come from a military family, and sometimes when I see stuff out there, and this was the ultimate one that cracked me up. Google their little deal they did, for Memorial Day. Did you see it, Brandon?
I didn't see it, no.
Yeah, so they had a little, they always put up a special Google bug or whatever they call their deal that they do, and they got it wrong. It's like, okay,
I'm not surprised.
I'm
Shocker.
like, you guys are the ones who should probably Google it and figure out what it is you're celebrating, and apparently you didn't. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was half right, half not right. So let's put it that way. I mean, Memorial Day is a celebration or a remembrance of those that were killed in the battlefield. Bottom line, that's what it is. That's what we're in observance of on that Memorial Day holiday. And Google just, hey, we're saluting everybody that served. Okay, that's great. That should be every day. That's I guess part of my gripe with it is that should be every day. And then we have Veterans Day in November, which is specific to that. Now we're talking about all that have served, not that are serving. It's not their day either. It's veterans. You are a veteran of something. Anyway, I guess OCD has its issues, and so do I. I don't know.
Anymore, I just try to look past it because people are so confused about this stuff, and sadly, the historian that I am, people don't understand history anymore, especially, and history is not taught how it really actually happened. So they no wonder that people are so confused.
Well, I think that's, so I got asked yesterday by our editor owner, Dan. We were talking on the phone, and he says, "What'd you do?" And I thought about it over the weekend, and I thought about it. Well, I got some stuff done around my place. Finally went shopping for groceries, which I haven't done forever. Anyway, just got out and did a few things, and then I had I don't know why, but I decided it was time to watch The Godfather, all three again. They should have never made the third one. I mean, that's a whole show in itself talking about that mess, but watched it anyways. And then believe it or not, have you ever watched Gangs of New York?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh,
yeah.
you have?
What a great movie. Yeah.
How many times have you watched that? Like,
a bunch of times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That is a great movie.
I am now part of the group that has watched that. I've never watched that freaking movie until
really. Wow.
I don't know what the deal is, man. I can't. Yeah.
And man, you were missing out.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm like, okay, so I'm, Daniel Day-Lewis is a different cat. He really is. And I've seen him in a bunch of different movies, and he's just that guy wherever he is acting, doing whatever he's doing, whatever part. That's just who he is, I guess. Like, yeah, we need a guy like this, Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah, let's get him, bring him in, and that'll be who this guy is that he's playing, Anyway, so all these people that are in this movie, it's like, wow. Okay, so I'm watching this unfold, and I'm thinking to myself, now I get where AOC learned her history in America. And I'm not kidding, man. It was like unfolding in front of me. And then, but here's the reality of it. If you've watched the movie, or if you have not, it takes place in the third part of the 1800s, 1860 something, I think, somewhere in that range. 60s,
it's around the time of the Civil War.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely, it is. And so the only, real in the movie, and I missed this in history, but I did research it to find out if it was actually a factual thing. If it really happened, you could buy your way out of service for $300 if you had $300.
Yeah.
They come knocking on your door and say, "Hey, the draft is here. It's your turn, and either you come serve or you get $300." And that was a real deal. And they had a name for it. And we need Matt. By the way, Matt, we're missing you, buddy. I hope you're going to be, you're okay. Matt's going through some stuff right now, and he's getting looked at and taken care of. So we have him in our thoughts and prayers. And I mean, nothing. We're not saying serious. We're just saying he's getting checked out, right? So, anyway,
I do want to bring out though one of the greatest parts of that whole movie, is the fire brigades showing up and actually getting into fist fights over who actually, fights the fire. Meanwhile, the house is burning down,
yeah,
they're all out there fist fighting, and that actually happened. Like that was a pretty common thing, that it was one, bragging rights, and two, there was so much civil unrest over these fire districts and establishing these districts that they wanted to expand their territory. So they would literally show up, and if you're maybe right on the edge of the territory, you might see a bunch of guys get into a fist fight before they actually decide to put out your house.
Yeah. Now there was a ton of just BS in this movie. Okay. For dramatic purposes. I mean, the ships bombing New York, and that didn't happen. And, there was a lot of civil unrest, and the fact that ethnic, gangs and groups were at each other's throats, that was true. Yeah. And the names of some of these gangs was just like, okay, all right, whatever, but a lot of it was BS. But I thought to myself, boy, what a way for somebody who really didn't pay attention in school to glean what they thought made, some kind of a moment or a soundbite for their spiel to be a history lesson, and but not a good, accurate history lesson. So, but yeah, this took place for the most part, during the Civil War. That was supposed to be the era that it happened. But
the unfortunate part, it's funny because I'm reading a book that's actually wrote about our county in 1862, and it's a lot of historical accounts of what happened here at that time. And, growing up here, so this is the home of Johnny Appleseed. A lot of people don't realize that. So Johnny Chapman, Johnny Appleseed, this is where he originated from, and he was a real person. And to this day, there's still apple trees located here in this area that he planted, and what's always the crazy part about it, though, is you have the storybook, third grade version of who Johnny Appleseed was and who his life was and that type of thing. And, never mind the fact that you read all these historical accounts of what was going on here at that time, between the Native Americans, the settlers that were here, and some of the bloody carnage, and they talk a lot about it in the book, that it was like, oh, it was nothing, for everybody just to get attacked on a Sunday afternoon. And then by the next day, the smoke had cleared, maybe 2 or 3 people died. No big deal, just one of those things. And it's really interesting how when you really dive into this stuff and you read the real accounts of the people who were there at that time, and how romanticized.
I'm looking at Google here, and I'll bring this up and share the screen. So Johnny Appleseed, according to Google, Leominster, Massachusetts, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Lived, born in Massachusetts and died in Indiana.
Well, he was all over this place, but he actually spent most of his life right here in Ashland County, Ohio. So he was here for a very long time. I think he was here for like 30, 40 years before he moved on. I mean, he was around here for a long time. He was born, I believe, in Massachusetts, but he spent most of his life was here. So
yeah. And then, of course, Wikipedia has its version too. But
well, that's what's crazy. That's what's so crazy about this stuff is so all that is an interpretation of what somebody put out there on the internet. It doesn't make it factual. It's just like these movies. These people, they research this stuff, and like I always say, read the firsthand accounts of the people who were there. That's what really matters, because over the years, it's just like that. When you're kids in school and somebody looks at you and says, "Hey, tell a story, and then it gets passed on to the next kid, to the next kid. And by the time it gets to the 10th kid, whatever they told them in that sentence is completely changed. And it's the same thing with history. We're 10, 12 people later now in these books, these authors, and it's like, man, this stuff has gotten so far from what it originally was, it just unreal. And what's crazy is there's no sense to even do that. Like, this stuff is juicy, it's bloody, it's gory as it is. Like, we don't need to change it, we don't need to make it more dramatic. It was plenty dramatic on its own. Like, the stories are great.
Well, unlike, most shows, the accuracy here on the morning drive is 100%, right? Because generally we have Matt, the memory guy, and we don't today. So Matt, if we get it wrong, it's your fault today. So I think we're doing all right. We're on track. The movie though, I'm gonna have to watch it again. But I'm gonna wait a while. But man, I'll tell you, I thought it was a great movie. Cameron Diaz was young strapping Leonardo DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz and
Bill the Butcher, man. That was the character of that movie. That's what made that movie. Bill the Butcher, man. He was the guy.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis. That guy is like I said, he's a trip, man. And of course, Liam Neeson in the beginning of the movie. He had he was able to come on and die in the first 5 minutes of the movie, and then be acknowledged throughout the entire movie pretty much because he was the whole basis of Leonardo's character and what he was there and what he was all about. So interesting. But I did something else this weekend. Then I remember I was saying what did I do this weekend? Well, I've got a TV. It's a Samsung, great TV. Bought it on Amazon probably, almost going on 10 years now, I think. But a good TV. But here's the deal, man. They don't build these TVs any better than the new computers that are out there. They've got a life cycle, and that's pretty much it, That being said, it's not necessarily the screen and the sound, which are the main components that you really rely on to give you what you're looking at and the entertainment value, so you have a good picture and all that. It's the operating system, and the operating system doesn't update, and it gets to a point where it's no longer supported and nothing works, and the apps don't work, they won't load, all this crap, right? So you got this great TV. Basically it's a monitor now. Plug something else into it and it'll work fine. Just don't rely on the TV operating system to do anything for you, because it can't. It's outdated. And Windows right now, Windows, what a freaking nightmare we're going through with those people. Anyway, so I got the Amazon Fire Stick. That TV's never worked as good. I mean, it works better now than when it was new. It does. It just does. It just glides through all the apps. Everything's smooth. I like the operating system. It's 100 times better than the one that comes with the new TVs. And if y'all have got a new TV, and I know you guys out there do, everybody's got some kind of late model version of a screen out there. And there's all these different operating systems out there, and the apps. Bad operating system, you'll have a bad experience with how the apps work, especially Paramount Plus. That one never worked right for me since the beginning of time. And even on a new smaller Samsung that I bought to put outside on my patio, has the latest operating system. It's still not right, but it works with the Fire Stick. So way to go, Amazon. They made it happen. Picture quality is it's where it should be. It's a 4K stick. It's just, and you plug and play, man. I'm not kidding, boy. All you got, load your apps on was really the extent of anything. Had a couple of settings to go in and do. There was a audio video sync that needed to be adjusted and handled. I took care of that. And that's doable. That's all adjustable on the Fire Stick app itself, on the settings. But as far as plug and play, really, literally it is. What a great setup. And it was like $35.
Yeah, they're not bad at all. It's funny you should bring up Amazon. It's funny. Over the weekend I was at my mom's place, and I've got an old bookcase over there from back whenever I grew up there. And I was going through some books that I haven't read in a long time. I was like, man, I need to grab those. I need to reread those. It's been a long time, and I picked one up, and a receipt fell out of it where she had purchased it for me in 2009, from all places, the Amazon bookstore. And I was looking at that receipt. I was like, man, ain't
Remember
that
that?
something to think about? Like, it really 2009 doesn't seem like it was all that long ago. And look at where Amazon is at today. Started from a bookstore. Unreal.
It does to me. Hate to say it, but 2009 right now sounds like it was a whole world ago to me right now. Man, I'll tell you, how much things have changed, how much has happened. We now, before it was BC and AD, man. Now it's, pre-COVID, post-COVID.
Yeah, right.
I'm seriously, that's kind of where we're at. And when I look at
Yeah.
stuff in the timeline of the world, and you go, oh yeah, 2017, 18, and what a different look at the world we had versus when we came out of that stinking COVID thing in, what,
COVID
22,
COVID
really?
really changed us. I
Oh
mean,
boy.
I would have never dreamed as we were going through COVID, that several years afterwards we would go back and look at it and go, man, boy, things are different now. Things have
Yep.
changed. It just never really seemed like that would be a thing, but it really has become that. I mean, the world has
Yep.
changed tremendously in the
Yep.
past 2 or 3 years, in my opinion.
You're
This whole
100%
deal
right.
has changed. The whole
No, you're
game has changed in
100%.
so many ways.
Yeah, if you look at the business world, the hospitality industry, the brands that were like, oh, we just took for granted. They'll always be here. This will never go away. They're gone. There's a lot gone.
Yeah. Well, I struggle a lot, and I've had to learn patience. I've had to learn forgiveness.
Uh-huh.
I've had to learn a lot of skills that my personality didn't do so good with because, as I'm living like I'm trying to be in the 1980s and the 1990s half the time. And when you walk into a place and you basically get the middle finger and there's zero customer service, I'm still living in the 90s where
Yeah.
people used to bend over backwards for you, and it's like I got to stop and take a deep breath sometimes and just let the anger out because it I would explode this day and age, because hospitality is different. I mean, everything's different now.
It is.
You can't even expect to go into a restaurant half the time and get your food order right or whatever it is. I mean, just everything seems like it's upside down. I mean,
So
it's
you bring up a great point, okay? And I was in the hospitality industry at one point in my life. I was front of the house, back of the house. I've been in a lot of different aspects of the hospitality industry, and not just and let me. I never worked at McDonald's or any place like that, and I'm not saying that's a bad or a good thing. I'm just saying I never worked in that kind of a place. I worked in some pretty. I mean, Monterey Peninsula. I worked at some pretty highly rated restaurants and properties. Pebble Beach Corporation, Highlands Inn, back in the day, man, when these properties were just that. There was nothing less than absolute perfection acceptable to anybody, whether you're a customer or part of the staff. Either way, staff had to be on point every single day, 24/7, because the clientele expected that, and
yeah,
that's how it was. Monterey, which has basically become a museum of hospitality industry, and the expectations are still there. Some of the highest expected experiences that people demand when they are there. They're spending the top dollar still, and whatever's left standing is fighting for every dollar that's out there of every tourist that's visiting that peninsula. But all that being said, now here we are. Like you said, you go into some place, and I think the attitude in a lot of places, it's like, hey, just be happy we're still open. I mean, we're here. And if you get anything that you like or don't, we don't care, but we're here, I mean, not everywhere is like that, but I've experienced that.
yeah.
I'm just saying, Now, do you just go with the flow, or do you try to raise the bar and say, hey, look, that's not acceptable, man? I mean, if you were standing around here on this side of the counter and got what you just gave me, would that be okay with you? I've seen people go to blows over some of that crap, and it gets shared in social media. It ain't pretty, but which way do you have to find a balance? What? I don't know.
So that's why, like, one of the big things I do now is like I try to shop local. Your local businesses, the local people care. The ones that you can really rely on, they're there. We've got a great community here that there's some great businesses here. There's some great restaurants. Great places that they still businesses. They've got good employees that you pretty much get good customer service. But it just seems like when I'm out traveling, and I do a lot of traveling. Yep. It's when you get out there in the world, man, it's like, well, truck stops. I mean, it's like I was saying before, that you walk into a truck stop now and it's like it used to be all about the drivers. It used to be, hey, how can I help? What can I do for you? What do you need? Yeah. Now it's like, you're bothering me. I'm trying to text somebody right now. It's everybody's at work doing this constantly, and it's like, and you walk up to the counter and you're like standing there like, okay, they're like, well, you got to wait on me to finish sending this text.
Well, there's a whole nother element. First, I want to say good morning to Jamie Williams. Jamie, good morning to you. Thanks for tuning in. Jeff Patello, what's up, Jeff? Look at that. Two top builders in the nation right here. Two of the top builders in the nation right here in front of us. So good to have you guys on board this morning with myself and Brandon. Our memory guy, Matt, is out, and Rob was scheduled, and Rob did text me while he was on board. He's on a flight that was not landed yet, and so he's running behind, to say the least. Probably won't make it in today, so we'll get Rob back in on another show, and especially since Rob is such a wealth of knowledge with all of the, gosh, I hate to say it, but some of the unfortunate dark side of our industry. Man, this guy is just like uncovering the dirt, and we wanted to get his take on that Supreme Court ruling that went down 2 weeks ago now, and that is the where the responsibility has now shifted to the brokers. They're a part of the plan, and the Supreme Court said, no, you're responsible. If you're going to work with people, you're going to hire them, you're going to seek them out, you're going to put them in play, you're also going to be responsible for these guys. So there's a lot of connecting the dots along that landscape that we wanted to get out of Rob, but we'll get that next time around and talk about it. I think where I was going to, dive in on was truck stops, quality of food, availability of food there. And there's some stuff going on right now that I guess Duffy's getting involved, and it's got to do with the quality of what's out there, trying to implement some kind of a standard out there for our drivers, for the guys that are out there, to have, something decent available to eat when they pull in somewhere, that they can count on having use of restrooms, good, quality, decent food, which that's non-existent. That went away. COVID killed that, man. It was like, shut the door. They pretty much shut the door on our guys out there, and restaurants just went away. I mean, we've had these conversations before about some of the staples that used to be there. They're gone.
You can remember, and it's like, because I was out there trucking, during COVID, and it's like, you'd be out there, and it's like, if you didn't get anything by 4:00 in the afternoon, you were pretty much shit out of luck.
Yeah, forget
and
about
then
it.
Not only that, but half the time it was like, well, hey, we're not, we're out of food, whatever, or we're not serving, there's just all these weird things were going on. It's like they just never recovered from it. And it's like anything else, it's a business. I mean, when you get, it's like what I've said, and it's like shocking, local politicians, what's going on in the political world. I mean, look at all the shakeups, that happened last night in the primaries.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
A lot's changing. And but I look at these guys, and it's like everybody's going, well, this long time, senator down in Texas and this and that. Well, exactly. Look at the guy. Look at it.
Yeah.
He should be retired. This is the problem, and it's everybody's so confused by everything right now. And it's like, okay, what are you in business for? You're in business to make money. Same thing with politics. You're not listening to your base. When you're not listening to your customers, or you're not listening to your political base, or whatever that may be, and you get so far away from everybody, of course you're not going to stay in business. Of course you're not going to continue to be a politician. Eventually, that's going to break and the system's going to break. That we got to get back to listening to the people. That's your, it's like I always laugh too, so many of these businesses and everybody's like, we're having a meeting about a sales meeting or whatever. And it's like some of these struggling companies, it's like, maybe have less meetings and just go out and talk to your customers, figure out what they need and get them what they need. That's how you make money.
Jamie just mentioned that they're opening a Black Bear Diner in the Joplin Petro, which
nice,
long overdue. There was not really anything in that area right there that had that kind of a environment. But here's the funny thing, that's the model that everybody went to. So Flying J, you used to expect the country market. I think that's what it was called. And they have this fantastic buffet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they had the store that you could go in and buy, stuff to go. I mean, it was a, legit setup with decent, high quality food, man. I mean, I remember going and I used to eat at that. I had a J hook, whatever you want to call it, Flying J. I used to have one right down the road from where I lived in the San Joaquin Valley. And I used to go there all the time. So food was great. Quality was awesome. It's Denny's in there now. So the third party, vendors have come in and they're now like, okay, we got the spot. You pay us. And I'm just guessing the model. They probably pay rent to be there, and it's up to them to make it work, and unfortunately, in some cases, and Denny's is one of those, they don't have the best reputation anymore.
Sadly, ours closed.
Yeah,
we don't even have a Denny's. They went out of business. So a bunch of them here in Ohio have closed. And sadly, that was always the 2 a.m. after the bar. Everybody heads to Denny's and the party continues there type thing. But they're gone. I mean, especially here in Ohio, they lost their foothold here. And there used to be a bunch of Denny's around here. And actually, I think there's one maybe over by Toledo. Like there's still some around, but they're so far away now.
Yeah. There's still Denny's out there. The one in Folsom, when I was living in Folsom, that Denny's left, and then it was there, it left, and it came back, and then it left again. So two or three attempts at a Denny's in Folsom, California, and none of them survived. Denny's here in Grants Pass, gone. And in fact, so's the Black Bear. It just closed a month ago. Black Bear Diner just closed. Sherry's, that we had one of the first locations to shut down. It's still sitting empty, and I mean, here we are in this little town of 34,000 about, and we're getting a Chick-fil-A though.
Of course, we're getting one of those too here. We're getting a Chick-fil-A too.
We got Chick-fil-A coming in. That's the big, the big, huge news. And of course, In-N-Out. Where does In-N-Out not survive, except where they decide they don't want to and they pulled out of, and that was the East Bay area in California, where they couldn't deal with the crime there anymore and they left.
We don't have any of those out here, in this area, unfortunately. I've been to them, but we don't have any of those. But think about that, though. That's the sad part, too, is, so many local, like, and thankfully here where I live, we have great local restaurants, that we need more of them. We really do. There's a real need for it. But the good quality, that home cooked type food, we're all just getting fast food restaurants now. And like, that food that, yes, it tastes good. Some of these restaurants, the food's awesome, but it's really not the best for you. It's not locally raised. It's not good quality food. It's junk.
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to, after there's the pre-COVID, the post-COVID, the guys who made it through the whole COVID thing, some of them were able to get through it and then not make it after that, and some of them are still hanging on. I mean, look at what everybody had to go through to make it through that crap, man. If you were a restaurant owner, you had to build an entire new environment to be legal during the COVID pandemic and be open for business if you could be open for business.
Yep.
Not
and all that
was able to do it,
all that to find out we were lied to the entire time. Go figure.
Yeah, well, there's a whole nother show right there, but
there's a whole nother conversation there. But
the bottom line is, again, it's BCAD, PC, both of them, pre-COVID, post-COVID. So I don't know how to define those two, but just there's that timeline now in the world, at least in our world, that I think stands out entirely too much. And I don't know that we recover from that. Not to mention how we got through it. That's what, I mean, gosh, I hate to say it, but was that an Amazon marketing plan or what? Because I mean, they just exploded, right?
Yeah, I mean, they did real good. Obviously, they were loving COVID. COVID was great for them, and that's the thing, and I talk a lot about this. If you look through history, big historical events like that are life changing, that are something that's going on across the entire world. It makes millionaires and it breaks millionaires. It makes billionaires and it breaks billionaires. It goes both ways. That whole industries are created out of that stuff, and that's part of where we got lied to, and that's part of where some of these special interest government groups, as they say, no good crisis goes wasted. Well, they look at some of these crises that they manufacture and they figure out ways to use that and financially gain from those, and as we find out more and more as things come out, that look at all the stuff we're learning about some of our government officials who were in charge at that time. They were making money hand over fist, and they were passing legislation that made that happen.
Well, right now with all the fraud that's being uncovered all over the country, California is, riddled with it. But all this fraud that's being uncovered and all the money that was supposed to be about, assistance and relief and, things that were supposed to help everybody get through the COVID pandemic, the time. And I'm talking, so we got 2019, 20, 21, 22, I guess we were out, right? 22 or 23.
Yeah, we were out by normal. I think it was 22. We were out.
We were out. So all that time, all these people were, these fraudsters that were out there doing the things they were doing, made all this money. And now, I mean, that one woman that just got finally sentenced to $250 million restitution. Good luck. Where's that coming from?
They know that. They knew this fraud. That's the thing is you can't be in government, and that's what's, I don't know if they really think we're that dumb, or they just want to pass this, pass the buck off like they do, which they do. They knew what was happening. It was pretty obvious. I mean, we all see it. It's just like us. We've been crying, about this whole, non-domicile CDL thing for several years. That's been an industry hot topic. Yeah. Fraud in the government has been an industry hot topic for them. They knew it. They just didn't do anything to stop it. And that's the problem. It doesn't become a problem until somebody, or it is a problem, but it doesn't become a solution, or nobody wants to deal with the problem until it affects them.
So it goes back to that, walking into the business, let's say, we won't pin it to one industry or the other, and they're acting like, you're lucky they're there and you're just going to get whatever you get. And now it's up to you to decide how to deal with that. Are you going to just take that, or are you going to try to raise the bar in your experience while you're there and do something about it. And I guess that's where we've been in this, as on the other side of this COVID thing and going through it, where people just didn't say anything. They knew it was going on. We all see it in front of us, like something's weird, something's happening here. And here we are. Now we're dealing with all the fallout. I mean, there's predatory lenders, there's predatory carriers, there's predatory brokers, there's all of these things that are out there that in our industry, man, you got to be your head's got to be on a swivel, be out there and not get, pinned in by somebody or something. Right.
One of the things that I noticed too is, and this is something I guess that I just observed this, that it seems like the new thing is everybody is looking to make money in different ways rather than the hard work way. It used to be you'd say, okay, I can go to a job and I can make X amount of dollars here, and I can make money this way, or I can go haul this load and I'm going to make this or whatever it is. But now there's so many people looking to make money off of the people actually doing the work.
Yeah.
That, it's like every time we turn around, there's a new fraud. There's a new way to make money off this industry. There's a new way to make money off this person. We're going to tax, and it's no different. The government's doing the same thing to us. That every time I turn around, and it drives me nuts and it drives me insane. The amount of people that I'm in these meetings all the time now. And I'm hearing all this stuff. Well, we got a grant for it. It's okay. The other day, our county, they're talking about putting in an 8,000-gallon fuel tank. You know how much it's going to cost to put in?
Hold it. Wait a minute. Wait.
There you go. Yeah, you already saw it. Exactly. Yep.
This came up on my news feed. I'm like, I'm connected.
Yep, you are connected. Now, think about that, okay? We're talking an 8,000-gallon fuel tank, okay?
Yep.
Now, obviously, it's in an airport, aviation fuel, all that stuff. But, okay, look at the price tag. If you scroll back up, look at the price tag on that.
It's right here.
Yeah. Does that make sense? But it's because if you notice what
aviation fuel doesn't mean anything. Aviation fuel is basically diesel.
Exactly. But look at what the title says, state grant. And that's our problem there. Is everybody says, well, it's okay. It's actually the price tag is going to be more than that. If I remember right. Yeah. So our contribution is going to be $82,000 to that, I think, out of pocket for that $683,000 job.
There right there.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. So there you go. So a little over 82,000 is what we're going to have to pay out of pocket. Now everybody goes, well, that's okay because we got a grant for it. Where do you think that the grant money comes from? It's not some magical money tree at the state, and it's always, well, we started this new program, we got grant money, or we did this, we got grant money. The money is coming from us. I cannot drive that point home enough, that it's like, that is what's wrong with government, is everybody all the time. It's like, well, we're not, even it was funny, even our EMA director the other day, she stayed in the meeting and she goes, well, I got a $12,000 grant for this. So it's at no cost to the local taxpayer. Where do you think the $12,000 came from?
Yeah. Well,
you got to stop. These governments got to stop with this. We got a grant. It's grant money. It's grant money.
It's robbing Peter to pay Paul, man, is what it is.
It is.
Yeah. It came from somewhere and someone else is going to get neglected or not.
It's just another scam. It's just another scam. We took the money from you, and now let's make you apply, and let's make you actually have to jump through all these hoops to get the money back to your community because we took it from you in the first place.
Yeah.
It's just,
well,
it's maddening.
That's an expensive fuel tank, first of all.
Yeah.
And especially the fact that it's above ground. They're not even have to dig a hole for it.
Trust me, I sit there and that's what I say. The common sense of me, I look at this stuff and go, I could put in an 8,000-gallon fuel tank, and I'm talking like in a stretch, maybe 100, 150,000, and we're talking like that's going to be a pretty damn nice setup. And I'm looking at those numbers going, okay, and this is the problem. We're bloated. We're everything. It's well, if we're going to do this, we gotta, and I guarantee you the company that's doing it, they're probably profiting $300,000-$400,000 off that job easily.
Jamie, I don't know if he's still on here or not, but he'd be a great resource to ask in the projects that he works on those convenience stores that he is contracted to build all the time. If he's part of the crew that installs the fuel systems, or the a subcontractor come in and do that. But just out of curiosity, I wonder what's a fuel system like that cost to be put in, because probably most of these places are all using above ground tanks now. That way,
yeah, I think
them.
above ground's kind of the way everything's going, now,
Yeah.
because like obviously EPA reasons, we don't want to keep putting that fuel in tanks underneath the ground, and
Yeah, you put it
just
above
more
ground,
chances
and
to have problems.
yeah, the in-ground tanks have to be dug up every so many years, and at least in California they were. It's like those are good for X amount of years, and then after that you got to dig them up and redo them, and they shut the place down and go in and bust out the concrete, dig up the tanks, and put in new ones, and then bury. I mean, it's a whole rebuild process that's sort of built in. I don't know how anybody makes any money in that kind of a business model, but apparently they did. So now they certainly are. I mean, holy crap! Look, what the cost of fuel is down there still. We've come down a few cents here, but that's it. Nothing major yet.
Speaking of that, what do you think's going on? I mean, Trump gave another extension, then they come out basically said, no, we're not as close as they say we are. They say we're here, we're not feeling that way. Like it's mass confusion. Then we're doing a meeting at Camp David. Now the weather's not permitting. We're not doing a meeting at Camp David. Now we're doing a meeting at the White House. Like, man.
I just feel like, what is the procrastination here on this deal? On our end, why we had a
I really wonder, it really begs the question, when they went to China, did China say something that's like, hey, if you do this, this is the result? And that's why I feel like there's a lot of procrastination going back and forth, because a calculated leader, especially military wise, there wouldn't be all this back and forth. And I know they're trying to create some confusion, and I think that's probably part of the plan, because there's too much media these days, and you're not going to tell somebody before you bomb the crap out of them. I mean, that's kind of counterproductive,
Not this crew, they're not. The others did, but not this crew. This one's not like
that. No, you're not going to call them up, be like, hey, at midnight, just expect some incoming bombs, just so you know, so you're ready for us. Like, just want you to know.
Yeah, be sure and duck. It's incoming. No, I don't know. I know that we're all tired of and not feeling it right now in our economy, and a lot of people are struggling, and I mean, it is not financially a good time for a lot of folks right now. I've talked to some people out there, that are in the service industry, and they've got trucks that come in because they have to. Preventative maintenance stuff is kind of like, it's not happening like it should. Part sales are not happening like they should. And that's because everybody's waiting until it's a have to. And that's not a good place to be in our business, man. I mean, my policy was always to stay ahead of it, so it doesn't leave me in a position out on the road where I got to get on a hook and get, drugged back into the shop. I don't want to have that happen. I want to stay ahead of whatever I got going on. But, there's tough times right now because of this fuel. When you're paying twice as much for fuel, you're having to budget things differently. And I know it's not pretty. It's just not. It affects everybody, all walks of life. And anybody out there that doesn't feel it, well, God bless you, and you're able to, do what you're doing, and it's working great. Just realized, and I'm sure you do, most of you, that not everybody is in that position, and we're all trying to get through it together. So, but I've talked to people, and that's where it's at. There's business as usual. I'm not saying there's not, because there is for some folks, and that's, people that have budgeted and are playing for the long game, or have put themselves in the position to do so. They're going to get through this thing, and it has to start changing now, man. We need to see price of fuel come down now. It has to come down now.
Well, the other thing too is, and again, from historical precedents, normally after a war, or during a war, obviously the nation always feels it. Whatever nation's fighting in a war, there's always that, economic effect, the morale effect. I mean, there's several different aspects to it, but the thing that normally happens is normally after a war, we start to rebuild our country. Our economy rebounds. People come home from war. They've been in the service. They want to buy new cars. Whatever it is. Well,
Yeah.
the problem now is these people. These wars are fought totally different. Everything's different, and now we're feeling the effects. And then there isn't this big resurgency of people coming back from war, that we have all these people coming back and these war profits and stuff that they can go spend money like this. It's not there.
No.
So not only are we feeling the effects, but there's not going to be this rebound coming back into the economy because there's nothing rebounding. It's not, the human element in war has changed. Everything has changed. And I don't know how we mitigate through that, and I don't know how the American people pay the price like we have been, and getting taxed to death, and then have these wars that happen, and then there's no resurgence of money coming back to the economy. It's a problem.
I don't have the magic pill. I wish I did, man. I wish there was, something that said, okay, yeah, by, midsummer, we're going to all be all better off and in a much better position. Jeff just mentioned, it's hard to make a living when you're paying $7.50 a gallon, in California. And
Yeah.
And that's on the low end. I mean, when I drove
feel
through,
for you guys out there. I mean, that's just wild. I mean, how do you? I mean, what the rates probably are no different. I mean, what's a good rate out there? I mean, what's a good mileage rate out there? They're probably about the
well,
same as we're getting out here,
that's the thing, it's
and a couple dollars less a gallon. I mean,
if the rates aren't instantaneously reflecting any sort of surcharge, there's a couple of things that go wrong with that. And I've been through this years ago, and the same thing. We had a huge increase, a spike in fuel. Well, us the guys, the last guy to see the money is the guy, holding the wheel, driving the truck. Everybody ahead of him is getting more because they instantly, in their contract have a provision for a fuel surcharge or something to cover it. Well, and the other thing too is out there is that, you're not getting full rate anyways. If you're dealing with a broker, you're getting whatever they've got that they're giving you and you've agreed to do the load for. So
yeah.
for them, they got no skin in the game. All they're doing is making a phone call. Hello, pick up, goodbye, next, and it's just like they
Well,
got
the other side of it too, that parts have always been a complaint, but man, lately these parts prices,
yeah.
how do you survive in a market, where a part, for example, let's just say R134A, prime example. I used to be able to buy that, 3 years ago for about $80 for a 30-pound can, maybe $100 for a 30-pound can. It's $335 right now for a 30-pound can of R134. It's everything. Everything has just exploded in price. You go buy an AC line for a Kenworth from Kenworth. It used to be like, you get some deals here and there. Now it's like an AC line, back to your bucks, like $600.
Yep.
How do you justify that?
Yep.
Certain point, like,
where did that go from? I mean, that's
$100 part to a $600 part, and the wages have not changed for the driver, and
that's my point.
I feel for everybody, as everybody knows, I've kind of changed my life in trucking, because I was forced to. I realized, the writing was on the wall. And it's like, hey, I want to stay in this industry, but to just run a truck and run a couple trucks, it's not making sense anymore. So I had to make some changes. But I feel for everybody out there who's trying to haul loads right now and make money, because every time you turn around, somebody's got their hand out and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And there's no end in sight.
Well, something's got to give, and I think we're on the verge of that, something giving, because there's been something taking for long enough, and this this conflict in Iran has not helped us in any way, shape, or form at this point. And neither is anything down in Venezuela. And again, we go back to well, if we've got so much domestic fuel, why are we paying such a high cost? And as was explained when Bill Rethwich came out and others, that the fuel's a commodity. It's price of fuel is set according to the world's demand, and there they go. We put it in play, and they take advantage of it. So here we are. Wherever you're at, whether you're paying $5 a gallon for diesel or you're paying $8 a gallon for diesel, depending on where you are in the country. That's how it is. Jamie, I know you're already gone, but thanks, buddy, for tuning in, and always good to have Jamie on the show. And Jeff, you're probably, if you're still there, man, thanks again too. Listen, guys, we're going to wrap this one up, and Rob will probably tune in and watch later, but we're going to get Rob back in here. Also have some other folks that I'm working on lining up and getting in here on the show. We'll announce as we get there closer. And of course, this afternoon, 5:00 Pacific time, Studio 10-4 Live, the weekly update will be on as well. So, oh, there you go, Jeff. 64%, man. Holy crap, dude. Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, there you go. But that's how you got to do it, right? I mean,
yeah.
Nothing changed in your world today except I was paying, $4 and changed a gallon for diesel, and now I'm paying $8. So yeah, that's like, okay, how do I compensate that? Wasn't part of my business plan. Now that's how you have to compensate it. That's the only way to do it. So I don't know, man. And Jeff, I'm going to give you a ring after the show. So if you got a minute, pick up when I give you a ring. Listen, everybody, good to hear you. Good to talk. Brandon, stick around. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. And again, like I said, we've got some other guests lined up that we're going to be bringing in. Hopefully we can get Rob in next week. Coming up this weekend, NorCal Spring Fling out here on the West Coast in California. And that is in Red Bluff, California, NorCal Spring Fling. And that is going to be Friday and Saturday and Sunday. All right. Listen, everybody. Good to see you. Brandon, good chat.